From every strand on the line of your reel, to the rods, to the anglers, to the lures on the end of your hook, let's talk about those big bass here on Co-Angler's Corner with your hosts, Rob Welch and John Stoudinger.
Good evening, everybody. I'm John.
Hi, y'all are. Cajun Rob here hanging out with you.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on this nice, warm 18-degree day in New York. And I don't know how warm.
About the same in Kentucky, so it's no warmer down here, man.
And Rob, I want to say thank you for taking all the snow from me. You know, you've got twice as much as I do, and it's terrible living where I do.
I know, but I think everybody's going to get it here this weekend. I think Texas, North Louisiana, North Alabama, I think they're all going to get it. And Tennessee, I think the whole state of Tennessee is going to be white. So it is what it is.
Yeah, but no, let's get into our guest here. Our guest is elite pro angler Alex Wetherell. He's renowned for exceptional skills and strategic approach to competitive fishing. Alex has built a reputation as a consistent performer, combining deep knowledge of fisheries with relentless work ethic. With multiple accolades and passion for the sport, Alex is dedicated to pushing the limits of professional bass fishing while inspiring others to do the same. So let's bring Alex on. No,
Absolutely.
We don't want him down there.
What's up, guys?
There we go.
Hey, buddy, how's it going, man?
That was great. That was a great introduction. That was like a college essay.
Yeah. I put my 7-year-old to work.
made me sound a lot better than I am.
No. I didn't want to list all your top finishes, so I'm let's come up with something else.
I'm just a dude that likes fishing.
Hey, there you go, man. We're the same way.
But no, if you don't mind starting out by telling us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go on from there.
Sure. 32 years old. Been on the Bassmaster Elite Series. This is going to be my third year, so I'm no longer a sophomore. Doing it full-time professionally now. Before that, I worked at Lunker City, if you guys remember the Sluggo back in the day.
Yep.
So they were my first sponsor. I started fishing club tournaments when I was, I think, 16. My gym teacher was the president of a men's club. So that was kind of cool. So I got into fishing in a club that way as a co-angler. Couple guys like Dave and then this guy Mickey, he took me out, kind of just showed me a little bit. And then the next year I got my own boat, a little 16-foot nitro with a 90 on it, and started doing club tournaments just to get used to it. And that same year, that gym teacher got me involved with the Junior Bassmasters. So I fished that. Was fortunate enough to win the state tournament, won the regional, went to nationals in Louisiana, and won the world championship at 17, and kind of just started the whole process from there. Like I said, Lunker City was my first sponsor. So worked at Cabela's for 7 years in the fishing department. That was fun. That was taught me a lot on the business side of like the fishing industry. And then I went to work for Lunker City and just got to see how to run a business and how to manufacture, and got kind of that aspect of it. So it's been nice. Like I love the fishing side. I love the business side just as much. And now I'm doing it full time, and it couldn't be better.
Man, that's well-rounded right there, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we all sit here and dream about doing what you do, but in the back of our heads, we're like, no, maybe not, because all the travel and stuff like that.
A lot of nights away from home for sure.
Yeah, it's I think that's probably, like, if I ever speak to like the high school teams or even college kids, like that's one of the biggest things I say to them is like I try to give them a realistic look at professional fishing. And for as much as the bright lights are, and as much as, you know, it's like on one hand you can't complain because you're fishing for a living, and it's a blessing in itself, but it is I want them to understand and know that it's not as great as it looks, you know, 365. You know, there's days where it is, and there's certainly days where it's not. And you really need to understand, you need to know business as much, if not more, you know, than you do fishing. There's a lot of guys that don't win anything that do really well, in the industry because they know the business side and they can sell a lot of product. So
That is true.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, I just I kind of started my retirement gig. I work for a major distributor, and it's amazing, man. I mean, I got to tell kids, I say, hey, being a pro is great, but steady paycheck is pretty nice.
Consistency, knowing what you're gonna get, and
Yep.
that is a nice thing. But
It is.
same thing with a small business owner, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's nice when you're an employee, you always get a paycheck, but there's a lot of risk and a lot more reward with being a business owner too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I deal with a lot of
Been there.
tackle shops, and it's amazing. I'll never forget one of the tackle shop guys says, well, if you love to fish and don't open a tackle shop, you never get time to fish.
That is true.
Yep. Oh yeah.
But no, we got a couple comments here for you. Kevin McGivney with K&K Customs says, hey, Alex.
Oh, very nice. What's up, Kevin? Kevin actually sent me a light for my Raptor just the other day, so that was very nice of him. And
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, kind of nice. Like, I definitely have gotten spoiled with that. Like, I do not like to put like a screw-in light into my boat anymore. Like, I want my LED lights on the front, and I want that wired into my Raptor built in, and I just hit a switch, everything comes on. So I definitely appreciated.
That's nice.
And Scott Callan says the business side sells and the fishing is the platform.
That's very true.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well put.
Brent Aaron Shore says Alex is either a Marvel or a DC superhero.
Or super villain. You never know.
Yeah, could be. Could be.
Now, you don't have to answer this question.
Ask me anything.
All right. Now, Bassmasters has come out with the no entry fee.
Yep.
Did that surprise you at all?
Yes. It definitely surprised. Well, it didn't. Like, we had a meeting in August of last year. And that was one of the things that came up was, right, I mean, no matter what, money's always going to get talked about. And, just different ways of how the anglers and Bassmaster could work together to, increase revenue, or just increase the payouts for the things. And that was a big thing was, with the economy the last 4 years, expenses have increased. And so certainly being felt, I think across the industry, COVID was kind of its own little thing where the fishing industry went crazy. And then now you're kind of starting to see a little bit of a pullback, and, you have to really be efficient. And so sponsors are cracking down, and, you really have to make sure that you're doing your part on that side of things. So with Bassmaster, I was certainly surprised when I saw it, but I also wasn't, because, there was discussions behind the scenes about trying to find ways to make it more affordable for the anglers, because the reality is, for most of us, you're looking at probably 80 to 100 grand between, entry fees and expenses. So it adds up pretty quick, and
Yes.
having good sponsors to help offset that helps too. But, if you have a bad year, that was one of the big things that I always heard growing up and kind of coming into this a little bit, was like, you hear the stories of guys putting a lot of money on their credit cards and getting into debt, hoping that next year is the year that gets them out of it. And so, you never want that. And I think everybody, Bassmaster, the anglers, everybody, wants to get to a point where the industry and Bassmaster as a whole, grows more. So, I was, but to answer your question, I was, I thought something might happen, but I didn't think they go all the way there.
Yeah.
Or happen that quickly.
Right. Maybe you reduce it slowly over time, but so yeah, that was definitely a surprise.
I know a lot of people were complaining about the payout structure.
Yep.
It is what it is. They're a business just like anyone else. They have to adjust to help. And I look at it like, I'm not in it, no skin in the game, but everybody's getting a $5,000 tournament payout because they're not getting they're not paying an entry fee.
Right.
But yeah, the cut down in the payout really stinks.
Yeah, I think I was happy that Bassmaster said, like, hey, we realize we jumped the gun a little bit on this with the, initial payout that they came out with. myself and the guys that were voted to represent that group and go and talk with the guys at Bassmaster. Like I do have to give Chase a lot of credit, the CEO. Like he really said, like, we want to work with the anglers, and he said, like, we realized, like, if we had talked to you earlier and we had guys, and that was kind of the other thing too, is like they didn't really have if they hear voices from people, it's like, okay, is that guy speaking on behalf of everyone or just himself?
Right.
They didn't know that before, so fair enough, right? So when we spoke with them and said, hey, like, we want to listen to you guys, we want to know what the group as a whole wants, and the group as a whole wants some skin in the game, but maybe just not as much as the $50K of entry fees that was in there. So I think right now it's some level of a happy medium, and then from this point forward, it's how do we increase the revenue so that the payouts can increase. So
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a start.
And they could tweak it. Yeah, they can start tweaking it, and I think they're gonna have some more sponsors. I think for the tournaments and the leagues have been kind of hard to get. I think that's about to turn around. So I think if they start getting that rolling, I think y'all gonna get a good bump for sure.
Yeah. I mean, they're looking at other ways on how to promote the anglers, and that can help us with our sponsors too. And then I think ultimately, at least right now, it's at the end of the day, no one's ever going to be completely happy, especially with 100 guys. And of course, the tough thing too is you have to filter through all the information you hear online, because everyone's going to throw their opinion out there. And anytime, I've learned this in business and just leadership in general, anytime you have change, people are not going to be happy about it, right?
Correct. Whether
Whether it's good or bad. And then over time, you kind of settle into whether it was good or not. So I think this is a good step in the right direction. I'm not like, I fish Bassmaster, but I also try to be very objective about it. And what gives me hope is Chase, the CEO, I think genuinely wants to do good by the anglers. So that gives me hope. And objectively, when I look at the payouts now, it only takes two checks making the cut to break even, whereas before it was 4. So at least in that sense, we've made progress.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And being on the sales part, and I hand off to Bass. Like when after an event, they do the top 10 lures. We always see a bump in those lures that is top 5 or top 10.
Yep.
So they do a good job on your sponsors. If you're promoting your sponsor and you're finished 5th or win, and you say, hey, I use this, and this, and I mean, immediately we see a big boost.
Yep, no doubt.
How did you feel about no New York on the schedule this year?
I didn't like it. I wasn't a fan. I mean, I wish they went to different places.
Yes.
I wish we saw Oneida back on the elite schedule, or Cayuga, or like some of these other places. But I mean, I'm never going to complain going to Champlain. I'm never going to complain going to St. Lawrence. But it would, it definitely would be nice to mix it up. But we did mix it up. We just didn't mix it up with more stuff in the Northeast. So I'll take it. I've seemed to do really well down south, and I think 3 or 4 of the bodies of water are river fisheries. So
yep.
I'm always down for that.
If you need practice, go to the Ohio River.
I've heard about it, and I prefer not to.
Not like you like catching small fish. And
I don't want to torture myself.
Yeah, that's a mental side of the game.
Oh,
right
it is.
there.
Yeah,
that's the grinder.
I'll tell you what, if you can, that's like the Sabine. Like, if you can catch them at the Ohio River, you can catch them anywhere.
Yeah, I said that about Sebago.
Yeah. I was at Ohio River, and I think in the BFL, and I caught one keeper, pretty decent fish on a buzzbait. I mean, it was like 2.5, 3. I almost cashed a check on that one fish.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it was a grind, man. It was like 8-inch, 10-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch. I was like, oh man,
wow,
it was a grind.
I have another question for you.
Yep.
Being from the Northeast, is it harder for you to go down south and fish, knowing you're looking at 5 to 10 bites a day, than do you think it is for a southern guy coming up north?
I think it's harder for a southern guy to come up north than it is vice versa.
Okay.
I think the biggest generally, if I had to generalize the whole thing, up north, like you're looking for individual bites,
Right.
on places, and it's not, you typically can't run patterns. It's like, I'm going to just go run points, or I'm just going to go, it's like you're looking for, I'm going to go to this foundation and try to catch one fish off of it. And then I'm going to go over here to this lay down and catch one over here. And whereas down south, it's like you run into schools of fish, and you kind of typically fish more schools. So I think it's just a different, because like, I remember one of my buddies, John Garrett, like we fish together, we'll practice together and stuff, and like we'll talk, like even when we were both fishing the opens, and he'll catch some fish out of a school, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, like you can't catch, and he's just so used to, like, you can catch 10, 15 fish, no problem. That's normal. Whereas me up north, it's like, I don't want to sting any fish because you don't know if there's going to be a fish on that laydown tomorrow. So I think that's probably the biggest difference.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Rob, your turn.
Okay. Now, if you go to a lake, like you've never been, if you go to Southern River Impoundment or TVA, and you've never been there, what do you kind of start off with? Do you start off with moving baits, and if they don't work, you kind of start dragging stuff, or what's kind of your process when you first get to a lake you've never been to?
So when I first get to a lake I've never been to, I've already done a ton of research online, because one of the worst feelings is when you pull up to a lake and you just feel lost.
Yeah.
Like it's overwhelming. You're like, lakes always look so much smaller on a map than they really are.
Yep.
Like you get somewhere and you're like, man, this creek looks small in this thing, and it's like the size of the biggest lake in my state. So that's probably one of the biggest things is when I get there, I already know, like at Toledo Bend this past year, like Housen Creek, where everything kind of went down at that first event. Like I knew before I came there, that was one of the main creeks, and so I spent a decent amount of time in it. And then I kind of branched out, and you try to get little feelers into some other offshoot areas and try to get away from the pressure of, where most people might go. But you gotta know, kind of generally speaking, where most of the fishing is won, most of the tournaments, and then it's learning how to drive that body of water for some of these places, like Toledo, like Seminole, and some of these places. It's like I'll go there pre-practice just to learn how to drive around, because I don't want to waste all that time in practice to, do that. And then really from there, it's just trying to break down those popular areas, because at least I know there's fish there. It's hard enough. You always want to just try to minimize the amount of, unknowns, or the amount of pieces to the puzzle. So if I can at least fish an area that I know this, that creek, typically there's tournaments won out of there. At least I know there's fish there. So I'm not wasting an entire day or 2 days of practice. And, oh yeah, by the way, like, guys never really catch them this far up the lake. Okay. Well, that wasted most of your practice. So I'll try to control as much of the factors as I can. And then once you put a pattern together, then you can say, okay, where else can I look around this lake that might be uncommon, or, not typical to the locals, as to where I can, continue this pattern. And I think that's how you end up going to a place where you see some of these guys kind of unlock some stuff that the locals may not typically do.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Do you believe in the home water curse?
I don't believe in it, but it certainly is. It is a big factor, just because of the overwhelming amount of information that someone has. So,
yes.
and that really comes down to the mental, aspect of the angler, because that can either, completely crumble you, and it's too much info, it's overwhelming, and you just want to. I think it leads into one of the biggest differences between an Elite Series angler and, say, an opens angler, or even just a weekend guy, like from one of my clubs, is guys typically want to just run spots. And that's where you can just get into that bad habit of, I'm just going to catch them at the next one. I'm just going to catch them at the next one. They're just not here, instead of stopping and trying to figure out, and break that down. So I think if you can keep, I guess if you want to just call it an open mind, it's just that term gets thrown out a lot, but it's true. if you can keep an open mind, then that becomes an advantage, just because you just have to know how to correctly filter that information.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the local kind of curse, I think, is like you said, there's so much information, there's so much doc talk and all right now, and the locals seem like get more into that, or you guys on the elites kind of, say, oh, yeah, and down do your own thing. So I think that's part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to fish in the moment. You have to fish what is happening that given day. And even then, I think that's what makes a great angler, is being able to fine tune how like immediately you can adapt to information. And that's, if practice was one way yesterday and then you have to adjust today, versus getting to the point where you can adjust within that specific day, because those bites will change from hour to hour. And the guys that can, see that and adjust within that same day, instead of going home that evening and be, I should have done this, I should have tried this. And, when you keep an open mind within the same day that you're fishing, that's when you can really start to do some damage.
Yeah. And we know, you practice for a tournament, be all conditions, be all nice. And as soon as the tournament starts,
Yep.
Changing conditions, like almost every hour or a couple hours, seem like changes, wind and sun and clouds. So I said, it's right. You got to change to those things and kind of figure out where the fish went.
Oh, it's guaranteed. If there's a tournament, there's going to be a cold front.
Every time.
And New York, there's going to be 5 and 6 footers every time.
Yep. You'll have great no wind conditions, and then tournament time, it's like they know.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So, no.
Every time.
If you had one body of water to go to for the rest of your life, where would it be?
Oh, it would probably be between Lake Ontario, Champlain, and maybe like Toho.
Okay.
Yeah, like I love Florida fishing, but Clearwater smallmouth fishing is also like, it's like, man, like we were talking about before the show started, like if the New York taxes weren't so high, I'd consider living there, because there's just so many great bodies of water around there to fish.
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, growing up, you don't hear about, when I was growing up, New York wasn't the fishing capital like it is now.
Yep.
I remember days on Oneida Lake where 15 pounds you're guaranteed to win.
Wow. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there's gobies in there, and it's like 20-pound bags are just the norm now.
Yeah. People 30-pound bags on Cuba last year.
Yeah.
Which just blows my mind.
That's
spoiled.
Crazy.
Yep, spoiled.
Yeah, it's crazy, but is there any lake that you don't want to go back to? Any body of water? I don't like Gunnersville, but probably like the Tennessee lakes, where it's just clay bottom, it's very bare, no grass in sight. I think those are probably some of the tougher places for me to fish. Like, I got a love-hate relationship with Douglas Lake. So do I.
Some of those places, it's like, man, you're scanning for hours and hours, and there you don't see anything. So it's like, but then on the flip side, it's like sometimes you go to like to Florida and you're scanning, and it's like, well, what do I mark? Because there's stuff every 5 feet, like there's grass everywhere. But yeah, when there's nothing and it's just bare bottom, and yeah, I did really well in one open on Douglas, so I like it, but and that's why I kind of don't want to move down south to like those places, because it's like, man, you just start losing the opportunity to fish grass. I feel like it's hard you have to make a long drive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I fished Douglas once, and it's a beautiful area.
One of the most beautiful areas.
And but like you, we couldn't find grass unless you were tight to the shore, and it's probably grass that was bent over from someone not mowing their lawn.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, just the clippings just falling into the water, floating on the surface. Yep. That's as close as grass as you're getting on that place.
Yeah.
Well, I fished Douglas for a long time, and it can be tough. but there's some grass, but you have to go way up the river.
Yeah,
Like
you're going way, way, way up there.
Yeah, like Key Poche area. Yeah,
Yep.
but it's way up there. But,
Yeah.
well, I think TVA lakes do get a ton of pressure. Man, they get night
ton.
tournaments, wildcats, weekenders. It's unreal.
Yep. Oh yeah, I remember I stayed overnight. I think I was like going in between places, so I just like slept at the boat ramp one evening on one of those TVA lakes. I think it might have been Douglas even. And
Yep.
all of a sudden in the middle of the night I get woken up and there's like 60 boats there, and I'm like, holy, like we can't even up north. It's like you can't even get 60 boats for a pretty decent tournament up here on a given weekend, and these guys like middle of the night in the summertime got 60. I'm like, gosh.
Yeah, it's great. And they'll have some tournaments down there. They'll launch out at 6 at night or 6 in the evening and fish till 6 the next morning. 12-hour tournaments. It's unreal.
Crazy.
That's it. You just brought something up. That's why a lot of northern guys try to fish the elites, because there's more money in the elites than there are in the local tournaments. Well, down south, you get 50, 60 boats. You don't have to go anywhere.
Well, like down south, they're giving away boats and all these events, and I'm like, man, it's like $5,000 up north is a big deal.
Yeah,
it's a different beast. These high school events down south, I hear you're getting like 300-400 like boats. I'm like, goodness.
Yeah, I got some local junior high. They got junior high teams here now.
Great. I mean, it's great. Great. I'm like, I love seeing it, but holy cow, it's a different world down south.
Yep.
It's like football. Same thing with football. Like down south, football is life.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know. I can't stand that heat though.
No. I have family in Augusta, Georgia that I stop by and kind of I stay there in between going to like Florida and Texas and stuff. And normally I'm staying there in the winter, so I don't see it. Well, I think I came down there in like May, and I'm like, holy! After 9 a.m., people don't go outside.
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah,
it's brutal.
I went to my specialty training at Fort Gordon, right outside of Augusta, and in August and end of July to middle of September, and it was just terrible.
I believe
you didn't want to go outside because it was so hot.
Yeah, man.
Yep. Oh yeah, like the Alabama tournament on Wheeler this year, I was like 103 degrees, no wind. I'm like, man, this is. You see, guys just get off the water by 10 a.m. Like they're done. There's no fishing in the middle of the day.
No. No.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, the worst one. My mom and dad live in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and there's Camp Shelby. That's the worst place in summer I ever been. I went down there and I forgot how bad it was. It's like 100% humidity and like 95 degrees. Heat index is like 104. I'm like, yeah, I'm happy where I'm at.
Yep. Yeah, my fiance wants a place up in Maine, Connecticut area, and I think we'll do that in the summer and then go down there in the winter, and that'd be a real nice life if we put that together, and we can just avoid the summer heat when the kids are out of school in the future down the road, and that'd be a nice thing.
Y'all can be snowbirds. There you go.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, we'll be snowbirds early on in life, and I won't be complaining.
That's perfect.
I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he said he's going to buy a property up by St. Lawrence.
Yep.
And then he's going to Airbnb it until he needs it.
That's a good idea.
Not bad.
Not a bad idea. There's some nice houses up there.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, there are. So who would you think is your biggest influence or mentor growing up and getting you into fishing?
It started, I'll give you like a small list. Like it started with guys from my club. I had mentioned Dave and Mickey from my club. Dave was the president of the men's club, who was my gym teacher. Mickey took me out a little bit, kind of just showed me. He was my first boater I ever had when I was a co-angler. Okay. And I felt so bad for him now because he had to turn back like probably a dozen times to go get my lure out of a tree. And finally, he was nice about it. But finally, he was like, all right. He's like, we can't go back and get it. Like, you just got to break it off. And I think by that point, I was like, okay, fair enough. Because like at this point, like you've turned the boat around more times than we're going forward. So,
Yeah.
he was good. And then Terry Baxay, who used to
Yep.
fish some of the
Oh,
bigger
yeah.
stuff, he definitely kind of took me to the next level from there, because he managed like all the junior Bassmaster stuff at the time.
Okay.
And so he was cool. I could call him anytime, ask him a lot of questions, and he definitely taught me a lot. And then I started fishing the Bassmaster Opens, and then this guy who I'm still good friends with to this day, Danny, he taught me how to fish the river. He taught me just a lot of like a little bit. I would just say just continuing that advanced knowledge of tournament fishing, of how to break down a body of water, how to especially how to fish rivers. He of all people really taught me how to fish the Connecticut River, and that has multiplied over many times into all these different places, and the Sabine and some of these other tidal bodies. So that was nice. And then there's just been like a small handful of guys like that it's been nice along the way. Each as I'm continuing to grow, as I would just say like the Lord's put them in my life, and kind of just given me favor with those people to just have the grace and patience to teach me. And so that's also like a big reason why, when I, like I said, even speaking at like I spoke at the Bass Nation event a month or two ago, and I said to them, like, when you guys boat captain for the high school anglers, like maybe you don't realize how big of a deal it is, but you really are having a big impact in these kids' lives, because when you take them out, like all the guys that took me out, like it has a huge impact. And I didn't verbalize it or portray it to them the way that it was, but like now I can reflect back on it, and I realize like how big of a deal it was for them to take the time out of their day, and even just take my phone calls, because I'm one of those guys that I'm asking a million questions. So like I'm gonna get you on the phone for 3 hours and talk to you nonstop about X, Y, and Z, and I just like to filter through information and what's your opinion on this. So looking back on that, I really appreciate the time that those guys took.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And a lot of these captains too. I mean, they set the example. How to act on the water, etiquette.
Yep.
How to respect your opponent. I mean, a lot of that's like, people don't realize. Like when you've realized now, hey, I get that from so and so way back when, man. It's like it triggers something. Hey, I've been here before, or I've been in that situation, and this is how he handled it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Where do you see the sport evolving to in the next couple of years?
That's a good question. I have to guess. I think we'll probably see a little bit of a refinement, especially on the Elite Series. And I think you're already starting to see that with like limiting the amount of transducers, limiting the screen size. I guess kind of like almost like, I'm thinking of it in a way like NASCAR, right? Where it's like
right.
you hit your limit, and then they start to condense down and refine what you're allowed to do. And, I think we'll probably start to see some level of that. Because, it's almost like phones nowadays. It's like, how much more advanced can you really get? And I'm sure there's some level that we can continue to progress technology wise, but I think we're kind of, even just lure wise, we're kind of getting to the point of like, how many different copies of this one particular bait can we make and pretend to tweak it a tiny bit just to say it's different? And, there's always going to be different things that come out, but generally speaking, we're in the last 20 years, you started to see some new techniques, and I think you've kind of started to see a little bit of like a flattening of that curve. So I think it'll be more so just a little refinement of just techniques. And because I'll give you an example, like with this live scope stuff, you're already starting to see the fine tuning of that now. It's not just like a new thing, but now you're really having to refine the baits and everything that you do. And I was talking to Kenta, who fishes like Biwa over in Japan, and he was telling me like those guys, the fish there are getting so pressured now with the live scope stuff that like guys are, instead of just throwing a minnow, now guys are having to try and find different techniques and change different things to try to get those fish to bite. So I think that's the kind of stuff that you'll see, the fine tuning of techniques and baits to make them a little bit different to get them to bite. And, hopefully too, one of the things we talked to Bassmaster about is I think just on that note, even just the scheduling, like putting the schedule in bodies of water can also help, see that change and that difference of, not seeing the same thing, every year. And I think you'll see some of that this year with some of the river systems that we're going to be fishing. And, I guess I'm a little biased to river fishing, but I personally like tough tournaments. I like tournaments where you really have to figure them out instead of just, some guy on his trolling motor makes the cast to the left and all of a sudden catches like 20 pounds. So I like having to try to figure out. And so I think I don't know. It's a good question, but at least on the spot, that's kind of where I'm thinking things are starting to head. And like the technology side of it, I think technology side, like I think from an entertainment purpose and side of things, I think it would be fun and a good thing to see less. I'll be careful how I say this. Like maybe not less units, but less like. I think in a way, MLF did some good in the way that they kind of, leveled the playing field with like the boats that they had and the units. And it was like, you're just going to show up to this lake and fish. Like, I like that aspect of that idea. So, I do, when it comes to the whole conversation that I see online, when it comes to units and technology and stuff, my opinion, and my opinion, this is not, not fact. This is just how I feel about it, is that Elite Series guys are not, weekend fishermen. So if a guy has 4 graphs, he's fishing for 100 grand. I think he is allowed to do that. That does not mean that every other guy out there needs to have that exact setup. And that's kind of the argument I see sometimes, is like, this has gotten out of control. It's like, well, you're not going to tell Tiger Woods that, him going and buying $1,000 club is out of control. It's like, he's going to use the best possible stuff he can. So, and I think there's a fair aspect to that. And on the flip side, though, from an entertainment standpoint, I think having less and seeing I think really it's more so just capturing the story of the guy being able to figure out how to catch him. And I think some of that's probably lost when they're using more and more technology, because maybe you're not able to see it, in real time happen. You're not able to see the contemplation of like, oh, I just caught one here, I'm going to change the color, I'm going to do this. It's like, you're not able to see that happen. I think being able to see it, now you're starting to be able to do that with like some of them being able to share the screens so that the guys can see what's happening. So I think that helps a bit, but I don't know. I jumped around a little bit, but that's kind of how I'm thinking about it all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, my thought on that is, you always had the back to the camera for the most part,
right?
But it's the concentration the anglers put nowadays as opposed, which justifiably so. Back in the 80s and 90s, they would talk to the camera.
Right.
Okay. A lot of the anglers nowadays, they don't talk.
Right.
So that takes a lot of the stuff away for entertainment wise.
Right.
But
no, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, I agree. I think the anglers that do a good job of speaking up and sharing in real time what they're thinking or what they're figuring out are the ones that even Bassmaster from the entertainment side of things wants to cover those guys, because you don't want someone that's just staring, whether they're staring down or whether there's no graphs on and they're flipping graphs, but they're not saying anything at all. The same thing. Like you want to hear the story and understanding of like the mental timeline of how you are getting to where you're getting to and how you're catching them. So I don't think the technology needs to go away for that to happen, but I think, like to your point, the anglers need to do a better job of it. And the technology wise, they can do a better job of showing what's happening on our screens too. So,
yeah. See, I'm a co-angler and I'm in the minority because I don't mind the forward-facing graphs and stuff like that because I know I'm around fish.
Yep. There's always positives to a situation, and that's a good way of looking at it.
You know, I'd rather know there's fish around me than, you know, back in the early 2000s, you wouldn't even know if there's a fish in the lake.
Right. Or yeah, you have a great day one, you get paired up with a guy and you're like, man, there is nothing here.
Been there too many times to count.
Yep.
Right. I'd rather, to your point, I'd rather at least just be around him. Like, give me the confidence to know I might catch one on this cast.
Yeah. Day trading with Nuke, he made it. Thank you for coming in. And he says, don't go to OH Ivy. It'll ruin you for fishing anywhere else.
At least go there once.
Now he's getting into his Rolodex. Says, come on now. Don't make me call Randy up.
Oh, boy.
My guess, I'm going to guess and say he's talking about Randy B.
Yeah, Randy B. Yeah. He's a character. He's right
so
on some things, wrong on others, but guaranteed to have an opinion.
Yeah, that's true. And I think some of that, you know,
that. You like that?
Yeah. Because remember back in the day, we had Ike and all these characters, you know, Ike was wide open. I mean, he was hilarious. He was entertaining. You know, Gerald Swindle, still entertaining. But you're true on that, man. The characters like that, and they was always good about explaining, hey, I'm going to go over here and flip, and I'm going to go try some top water. So there's always kind of, you know, almost play-by-play like a broadcaster would in football or something.
Right. Yeah, and that's on the anglers. They just need to do a better job of doing that. I mean, I think some of the I've seen a few of the younger guys. I couldn't say younger guys, but I'm one of the younger guys, you know, myself. But they do a great job of that.
Yep.
And then you have other people who just like you're staring at the screen, you're not saying a word. It's like we as a viewer want to be let in on what's happening.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, it's hard. You know, I have no skin in the game, so I can say what I want. You know, keyboard warrior, whatever you want to call me. But no, I think a lot of people wouldn't care if the anglers did like a color commentary type of thing on it. But
and I know Bass used to, like, some guys that make like the day 4 or 3 or 4 day cut, they'll have some of the anglers like being a commentator. I thought that was a real good idea on their part because they kind of broke it down. Say, hey, he's gonna do this. Oh, he's doing this. You know, I thought that was always pretty good deal.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I know, like, I'll shout out to like Lee Livesay. Like, I think he does a great job. You know, it's like I know some people were commenting about it on when I made top 10 at Wheeler. Like, there was one that some people texted me about because it was like, I think I got hung up on a stump, rolled it off of it, and immediately got bit, set the hook. And then, you know, it was like Tony Romo in real time. He's like, yeah, I think he just came off a stump. Fish ate it, blah, blah, blah. And then 2 seconds later, I'm on there saying, yeah, I think that worm I got hung up, popped it off a stump. And you know, you like that. You like to, you know, I like watching football and listening to Tony. And it's like, all right, I want to know what's going on in real time.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's hard when you're fishing for $100,000 and a life on the line, you know?
Yep. That's
because you do have to concentrate. You do have to concentrate.
You do have to concentrate, but you know, you're there to make a living, and those moments when you do get camera time, you have to maximize. You have to be a fisherman and a businessman at the same time. And so the Gerald Swindles, like those guys that can talk well and fish well, you know, those are the guys that are going to get paid well.
Absolutely. Good comment.
Barking Ruger says, right? What fun is it with a guy on a boat who isn't talking play-by-play about what's going on? Those are the guys who make the sport.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, it's a mix. I mean, everybody's a little different.
Right.
Oh, yeah, Rob, you and I are totally different.
Yeah. As far south as you can get and far north. But like I said, being a co-angler, I mean, we'll get a guy, you know, like you said, you know, day one guy might never say a word. And you pick up on that quick. You know, you'll have some boaters that just quiet which, you know, it's fine. The next day you'll have some guy wide open, you know, just
Right.
But it's pretty interesting. And then, like you said, then, you know, day one you could be fishing 3 foot or less. The next day you could be fishing 100 foot. So it's a lot of mental game. What was one of my old partners used to say, use your head for something besides a hat rack. He's right.
That's a good point.
Yeah, he's right. He's right.
Yep.
All right. So I do have one more tough question for you.
Just one?
Yeah. We kind of mentioned that earlier before the show.
Yep.
What's your favorite homemade cookie?
Favorite homemade cookie is going to be, I don't know the exact name of it, but it's the sugar cookie with the Hershey Kiss in the middle.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep, that's by far and away my favorite one. Like, and you have to do it right, because some people won't put the sugar on top, and it's just a plain cookie. It doesn't taste the same. And the cookie has to be like soft. It can't be crunchy. It has to be like soft, but not too soft. And it's real nice when they first come out of the oven, and the Hershey Kiss is like still like warm.
Burn your mouth.
Yeah, with a glass of milk.
Almost.
And like,
Yep.
That's you can't get better than that.
That's spot on, man. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob picks on me because I bring like a dozen cookies.
Well, that's one way to
I share.
Yeah, you butter up your motor. That's good. That's good. Good system.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's me. I'll have cookies and Twizzlers in the boat all day long.
Gotta keep that energy up. Keep that sugar rush going.
Yeah, that's the excuse I use.
See, I mean, like me, I have a couple peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, pepperoni, Swiss cheese, dill pickles, and a dozen cookies. And the cookies are like this big around. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my fiance has me trying to eat healthy, and not that I'm like out of shape or anything, but she's like, you really need to like pick and choose, or so I'm trying to do Cliff Bars. I'm trying to do like the right things now, but used to do Uncrustables. Used to love those things, and I found out they're not that good for you. It's not some great ingredients in there, but it tastes good. It's like, do I want it to taste good, or do I want it to be good for me? And that's the struggle every day.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're at the point of the show where we like to let you talk about your sponsors and then people who've helped you or whatever you want to talk about.
The floor is yours,
All
my
right.
friend.
Oh man, I just like talking fishing, but this is certainly helps keep the wheels turning. So I'll just talk about like this year who I'm working with. So I'm in a Bass Cat this year, which is a new thing for me. I think when I got my wrap, I picked up at VFX Wraps the other day. He was like, "Man, I think you've been in probably more boats than anyone that we wrap boats." And I went from a Stratus to a Triton to a Camus. I did that for 2 years, to a Nitro, and now to Bass Cat. So the good thing is, like, I got a real deal with Bass Cat, and I want to stay with them long term. I like being with sponsors long term, building long term relationships. That's one of the worst things I think the industry has, is when someone is with someone 1 year and they say, well, this is the best product that you can get out here. And then the next year there was someone else, and well, this is the best product and it's like, well, which one is it? So I try to pick and choose who I work with. And I want to use the best. And in that way I can just speak freely, like Shimano. I've been with them for some years now. I absolutely love them. I truly believe they're the best made product. I don't have to try to make anything up about it. I can just speak freely, and this is why I think it's the best. And it just makes things very easy, and I'm not jumping brands. Same thing with Humminbird Minn Kota. I've started with a 998 and, went all the way up to 999 and then the Helix and Apex and Solix. And so I try to, and that was one of the things that guy Danny and some of the guys that mentored me, really taught me from the beginning, was like, you're better off like having an old school mentality and going up on stage with a white t-shirt, than you are trying to have like 30 different sponsors, and some of them are conflicting, and just, you don't want to be that guy. So I've tried to limit how many people I work with the right companies. And so far I've been blessed to be able to do that. So like working with Bass Cat, Mercury, Shimano, Minn Kota, Humminbird. Who else? A big one this year is Caprolin. So they're a company actually out of France. Last year I got to fly to France, and that was really cool. Fly in there, meet the team. Their decathlon is like the Walmart or Dick's Sporting Goods, or like one of these major retailers over in France, and higher. I mean, Walmart's not a good example, but size wise, it's like, they're a huge company, and they have a different brand for every sport. And so Caprolin is the fishing brand, and they reached out to me and wanted to say, hey, like, we want someone to help design the baits. We want someone to tell us like what's good, what's not, and they have the capability and ability to make pretty much anything, and so that's what's cool is it's like, okay, let's make this jig head and let's do exactly like these exact things, these features, and they can do it. Like, we can go and get the best BKK hook out there, and we can mix like wire and this and the diameter and the color, and they can do it all. So I'm genuinely excited about working with them, and I believe the product actually starts coming over here in February or March. And it'll be available in Tackle Warehouse and a lot of other different retailers, but they're coming out with soft plastics and hard baits and frogs and, you name it. So that's been cool, because when I can work with a company that is open to criticism and is flexible to make changes quickly, like that's all you can ask for. So they've more than been able to do that. And I think they have some, like, genuinely speaking, they have some really good products coming. One other really exciting one is Solid State Marine. So they are a lithium battery company, but they are making the first solid state battery. So you have AGM batteries, and then you have lithium batteries, and then you have solid state batteries, and they're half as light as lithium batteries, or twice as much power given the exact same size. And one of the biggest things is there's no liquid inside. So that's the benefit of solid state batteries. There's no liquid, so there's no fire hazard. There's no potential of catching fire. I know that's a big reason why a lot of guys don't want to put a lithium battery in the boat. They can be used down to like -4 degrees, so you can use them in colder temperatures. They're not as picky about that. So like their 100 amp hour, their 90 amp hour battery is only 12 pounds. So like the typical 100 amp hour battery, lithium battery, is like, I think 30 pounds. And then your typical AGM is going to be like probably 60 or so. And theirs is 12. So it's like crazy light. Like this, they've been in saltwater for a year, and now they're coming over to freshwater. So they're out of Massachusetts. So I just happened to be close with them, had a mutual contact, and they've been awesome to work with. So I don't know. How's that?
Awesome, man. Spot on.
Cool.
Now that leads me to a question. Talking about the weight of the batteries, do you see a difference in the boat performance? Because
yes.
Okay.
Depending on the boat and depending on the size of the boat, it can have an effect. And that there's like, I'd quickly break that down into 3 things. Like, one, depending on which boat you have, like Bass Cats are really light in the front, so it's not gonna, like, I didn't see any difference at all. I have them in there. I still, like, the very first day I took it out, I hit 76. So it's like I don't have any issues with like speed with that thing. But like Camus, that boat seemed very like particular about its weight. Like you really needed to weight it right. Otherwise, even just with the tackle in the boat, you'd see a 3-4 mile an hour swing. And then the other factor you have too is the amount of electronics on the front of the boat. So like even just the trolling motor, the electronics, like more and more units. Well, that's a lot of weight in the very tippity top of the boat. I think it was Aaron Martins that I listened to one time that said, for every pound in the front, it's equivalent to 3 pounds in the back. So you can weight the boat back further a lot more and get away with it than you can the front, because otherwise, you see a big difference. So, that's actually like part of the reason why I always try to put all of my heavy terminal tackle and jigs and everything in those back 2 compartments, so that no matter what, whether there's a second guy, whether I have a full tank of gas, whatever, like all my weight is in the back, and I try to make my bow as light as possible.
Yeah.
Good point.
So I remember years ago, Ike and Ellie, watching him, and he would always run to the back of the boat to get us terminal tackle.
Yep. And when you're at that level, like a mile, 2 miles an hour, you beat someone to a spot one time, that could be a big paycheck.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So,
Or get you
all
a
right.
few more cast in a day. I mean, that makes a big difference.
Right. I got a bass cat now. I'm happy. Like I
Oh
get
yeah.
to go fast again. Like my Stratus was 78, 79 miles an hour, and I haven't had a boat that fast since. So I'm excited. And it's got it's got two 32-gallon tanks. So I've got 64 gallons in the boat. So like when I go out of Waddington this year for the Open, like I can go all the way out to the lake, out to the islands, and make it back and not have to fill up.
Wow, that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, it's nice.
depending on traffic.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
Bridget.
Yeah. Yeah, Bridget says, best of luck, Alex. At least suit you well. Yes.
Awesome.
Small Water Charter says, good evening, guys.
Hey, Small, what's
All
going
right.
on, buddy?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Looking at your tournament schedule, what do you think is going to suit your style the best, and what may be a little bit of more challenge to you? What do you think?
I'm definitely looking forward to going back to the Sabine. Top 10 that first time, and it's just tidal body of water. It's like the Connecticut
Nice.
River. It's tough. It fits me well. So I'm looking forward to that one. I want to get some revenge at Fork. That was my one really bad tournament last year. Just again came off of Toledo, tried to keep the same mindset going into there and those deeper fish, and I was fishing way too deep. So probably Toledo. I mean not Toledo. Fork, Sabine, and then I think probably maybe the Mississippi. Like another one of those river systems. That's what I'm going to get excited about.
Awesome.
All right. Anything else, boss man?
No, man. We're going to be checking you out on the lives, and we wish you the best, man. We're going to be cheering you on.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure to be speaking with you.
Hey, we appreciate it.
And best luck in top lines this year, my friend. And I know you're going to do well.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right.
Take care, Alex.
Bye.
Or see you,
Bye.
buddy. All right. Man, great guy, man. He's gonna do something big this year. He's
I think he's gonna get a win or two.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. He's definitely focused, but he's gonna be one to watch.
Yes. All right, folks. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget our show on this weekend. We're going to be talking about sponsorship for our Sponsorship Saturday series. Be safe. Stay as warm as you can. I know it's not easy.
No. And everybody down south, kind of where I'm at in the south, y'all be careful. It's about to hit us, I think, Friday. So y'all hope your power stays on and you stay warm, and hope y'all can join us back on Saturday.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good night, and see you Saturday.